everyone, this is Sarah, Painty Creator here, and I'm just working on a piece of Bahong paper. It's fine grain, so hot press, satin grade, 7" by 4 by 5" paper, and it's on a block, and that means that it's already stuck together, and apart from one little bit, which is where it says open. So it just means I don't have to put any tape or anything around. So I'm using this little one as my starting point. I loved those lovely sort of leaf colours, but then her expression and things is just so gorgeous. So I've done my usual transfer using my Procreate app to sketch with, because I find sketching on my paper disturbs the surface. So I've then sketched it out, done the classic scribble with a what was it, a 2B pencil, that one, and then just transferred it onto there. Fabulous easy way of doing it, because without it getting too much stress. I'm using some paper towel, my little spritzer bottle. I'm probably going to also use some table salt today. My usual set of Cotman watercolour paints. I've pre-squirted these so they're nicely hydrated. A set of my small and my medium mop brushes. Mop brushes hold a lot of water and paint to use over a larger area. And probably my little Nico Pro finer point brushes for a little bit of detail. I'll also be using my Winsor & Newton gouache white for some of the highlights and around the harness. So that's about it. So pause, do your drawing, or screenshot it, transfer it, whatever works for you. Give your paints a bit of a spritz, grab your paintbrushes, and 2 good lots of water, one for your brush to clean out and one for fresh water, and let's have a play. So I'm going to start off just wetting this outside area around the dog. So I'm using plenty of water, but it's allowing it to soak in to the area, and that will mean that I can work wet in wet, and we can have those scrumptious sort of autumn colours coming together on the paper. So I'm going to be using all those sort of nice earth tones: sap green, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, all nice scrummy little colours, and then probably some gamboge yellow. If you're using a different paint set, you might have quinacridone gold or something nice and bright like that. So I'm going to start off with some yellow ochre. Just wetting my brush, going into my paint pot, pull it out, and I'm just going to drop it in. I'm not trying to paint leaves. That would take ages and a lot of energy and focus. What I'm trying to do is to capture this sort of autumn background colour to set this princess off in the right space. So I picked up a little bit of sap green. I'm going to add some water into there. I just love how it just works across these areas. So wash my brush, I'm going to pick some alizarin crimson up now. Just dropped it into that yellow, okay, that's fine. So because I've not wet round the dog, I've not wet the dog, you sometimes have to sort of jiggle the paint a little bit around the dog area to keep it going. A little bit of burnt sienna, nice browny tone. I'm going to just add a little bit of raw umber in there as well. Any earthy tone will do. So that's the first layer. I'm just going to let that dry a little bit. Great time to just go in and cut into some of those areas you might not have had the original wash on. There's a hair, bit of kitty glitter. So I'm going in now with a little bit of a thicker New Gamboge yellow. It's a bright orangey yellow, just to add that sort of idea of some foreground leaves. And I'm going to go in with some darker, thicker green paint, again for this foreground. Okay, so grabbing my salt. So I store a little bit of rice in my salt just to keep it dry. And then I'm just going to sprinkle the salt on, particularly around this foreground area, as I want some nice sort of blooms and textures there. And I'm just going to let that soak in, dry naturally, and then we'll see what we're doing. I've just masked out using that cutout of I'm just flicking on some thicker paint. Now this is drying. All the same colours that we've used. Any earthy tones that you fancy. It's nice to get messy. That's why I work on a tiled table. And that's why my iPad's always covered in mess. I'm probably always covered in mess, to be fair. So whilst this is drying, I'm just going to get my large squirty bottle. This is just a repurposed Febreze bottle or anything. I'm holding it about 30-40 centimetres away. I'm just going to squirt into this drying wash and try and get a little bit more texture. I like that sort of white splash of paper. Let me just leave this off. Yeah, that's nice. So it's just a case of watching paint dry. Don't rush it, because otherwise your salt won't work. Just let it dry naturally. So go and put the kettle on and enjoy. Okay, so we're back. This is dry, it's flat again, and I've just made sure that I've taken off all that salt. It's really important that once it's dry you remove it. We've got some beautiful salt marks here, and I love how that sort of depth has come. This is much lighter and this is darker because we put that second layer into the wash. So we can now have a play with our little pooch. So let's just mix up a little bit of Payne's Grey into a puddle, and I'm going to do some darker Payne's Grey, so which is just basically more paint, less water in that one. So a lighter wash and a darker wash. A little bit of burnt sienna. And then I'm going to need a nice bright pink for her harness. So mix up a light colour first, and then I might just darken that off as we go. So I'm going to start with that, touching on a paper towel to control what's in your brush. Nice and bright and vibrant. We can load that up later with a bit more pigment. Just tapping it in. So I've just put some stronger pigment on my brush while it's still wet. I'm just tapping it in, and that will help just to get that sort of sense of depth in and around there. That will dry nicely. So whilst that's drying, we can do her face. So I'm going to just start off with some clean water. I need to be careful around those two pieces. If you're worried about it, just dry it off first. And that'll be fine. So I'm starting with the lighter tone of the Payne's Grey, and I'm just looking at working around her eyes. As best I can. So I'm dropping this wet in wet, so it will dry lighter. And I'm going for a bit of the darker tone. So whilst it's still wet, I'm just going to drop in around her ears with this nice dark tone. A little bit of shaping around the head. Tap, 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 tap. So I'm picking up a little bit of black now and Payne's Grey mix. And I'm just going to drop a little bit of that into this wash that we've got here for the darker bits. It will dry darker, that's fine. It's got a nice variation of tone. And then I'm just going to drop in some burnt sienna for a little fancy sort of burnt sienna eyebrows. Near enough straight from the palette. I'm just going to tap in a little bit of burnt sienna into her ears and around. And she's got lovely sort of flyaway curls, so I'm trying to sort of capture some of that as well. Okay, so I'm going to give that a little bit of a dry, and then I can see where I'm going. Okay, so we're back and we're dry. We've got some beautiful light areas on here. You can see her little eyebrows. I'm enjoying that. So I've just picked up my little #1 brush, and I'm going to just pick up a wash of burnt sienna and Payne's Grey into this mix. Roll my brush around so it gets nicely loaded, and control on my paper towel. So I want to sort of try and build some of that sort of feeling of her fur. I always find painting dark and black dogs really difficult because they're never black. So a little bit of dry brush we'll try. I'm just getting this sort of feel for her fur direction. And this bit is all black as well on her body, and there's a little bit here that's black. I better just drop that burnt sienna eyebrow back in. So back to my little mop brush, Payne's Grey. I'm just going to put her black mark markings across her back on. Very difficult to see because the photo that I've got doesn't actually have this back end of the dog on, so I'm sort of making it up a little bit, but I just want her to feel like she's got a bit of presence. So I'm just going to darken a little bit of these ears off. I quite like that sort of scraggy little feel for her. So onto my black. So I'm using lamp black, which is a nice black. I'm just going to do her eyes. Trying to leave a little tiny bit of white. And her nose. Again, I'm going to leave a little bit of a nostril-y shape. And a bit of light on that top of her nose and down that sort of central bit. Tiny slithers do make quite a difference. And then she's got a little bit of a bit coming down here. A bit of a smile. I'll give her a bit of a smile. I'm just going to drop a little bit of darker around her eyebrows. And this one I just need to darken a little bit more. Love the photo. She's almost scowling at the camera. And I think that really makes me smile. As if to say, what are you doing now? But we don't want scowling on our painting. So I'm just using a lot of water now to just put a little bit of grey around the muzzle. There we go. So we're into Furland on this white, and so I'm going to just use a little bit of cerulean blue with lots of water, so it's probably 95% water, and I'm just going to use it as a bit of a shadow on some of this fur and the underneath part. A little bit stronger with a drop of alizarin crimson in to make a shadow colour for these inside paws. This underneath part there. I'm going to drop some shadows under. It's so light you probably won't see it when it dries. but I know it's there and it helps to ground the little one. So time to give it a dry again. Okay, so finishing touches with our little gouache. You could use your Dr. Martens bleed proof white. I'm just using the gouache straight from the tube, so I'm going to just run a little bit of white around the inside of those eyes just to make them stand out a little bit. And then she's got a lovely white line on a harness. And then the same along this back end of the harness. You could just use a gel pen to do this. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of this gouache just to put a bit of texture in a tail. A little bit of texture on this white bit of her back of her coat here. On her legs. Particularly this outsidey one, because they're nice and fluffy and fun. Bit on this one. There we have a nice simple little A5, so it's roughly 7 inches by 5 inches is the paper, but this is on a block, so that means that once it's dry I can just put my little palette knife in there, scoop it all out, and we'll be set. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I have set up a new Patreon site, of which I will link on the outline of this little one. I have also painted this one today, similar sort of idea on the beach, and I'm going to drop this little outline onto Patreon as well, of the dogs. So if you're looking for a dog, join my Patreon. It's Painty Creator on Patreon. I will put links into the comments. Please like and subscribe and share with your friends, and I hope you're having a good time. If there's something particular that you want to paint with me, let me know, and we can always give it a go. So happy painting, folks, and we'll see you soon.